Hello, this is Steve from Beaute's Leatherworks, and today's project is this Louis Vuitton Keepall 55, I believe is what it's called. Now, I can't really tell what year this is from. Maybe 80s, I'm not sure. Maybe older, I'm not really sure. Can't really tell, to be honest with you. It's got the double zipper, two-way zipper. It does not have a shoulder strap. It does not have a locking mechanism on the sides. I think those are just for the single zippers where the leather tab flaps over. It has some funny feet here, which obviously they were added on. But we're going to try to see if we can make it into part of the design of the rest of the bag. We're going to replace all the leather pieces, the piping, handle, center pieces there, the side tabs. Now the corners have a little bit of wear, which there's really not much you can do other than once I take the bag apart, I'm gonna take maybe 1/4 of an inch off around the edges, so it's gonna get a little bit smaller. I mean, not much, maybe about 1/2 inch total. Because once that fabric is worn out like that, there's really not much you can do. So if you cut that off, and you stitch everything back together, then it'll look like it was never there. So overall, it's not in bad shape. Once we take it apart, we're going to wipe down this fabric right here to get rid of some of the white marks, white scuff marks on there. And then we're going to replace the leather with, they call it vachetta leather, but it's belting leather. It's natural leather. And I don't think we're going to tint the leather at all. We're going to leave it natural. We're going to try to leave it natural. All right. So, everybody wants to know how much it cost. $1 million. No, kidding. This is about $850 that we're going to charge the customer. And we're going to do a little bit more than what we promised her. We've had it for a while, and sometimes I feel bad that things take a little longer than anticipated. So I do a little bit more just to compensate for the time that the customer waits. All right, so let's get started. We're just going to mark the pieces. This is just a wax pen. Those markings will come off. So what happens when you're taking panels off? I mean, you want to make sure that you stitch everything back in its right place. Little guide marks are not a bad idea. Even though some things are pretty much self-explanatory, you know, when you're taking things apart. Like for example, this piece, right? It's not, you know. But sometimes it happens that the two sides are not even, and they could twist a little bit when you get done. So you don't want that. So always making guide marks whenever you can will definitely help out in the end. We're going to transfer those marks to underneath the bag because we're going to clean this up once we have it apart, and those marks won't be there. People always get nervous when I'm cutting something up. Oh, I haven't had coffee in 3 days. See if you guys can tell if my hands are shaking or not. I think they still are. Well, maybe the caffeine is still in my system. 3 days of detox is not going to get rid of it, I don't think. Can we call it a detox? Oh, Lord. Well, it is what it is. It's okay. I don't know. I just felt like stopping for a little while and see how my body reacts. I mean, lately I've cut down the amount of coffee I'm putting in the little kettle, you know. I used to put 2 scoops in there, but you know, I've been doing 1 scoop for a while. I think it's still strong coffee. Voila, the side piece is out. It's as simple as that. Okay, all right, let's continue. All right, so let me see if I can show you guys something. Now these rivets right here, as you can see, this has been replaced. It doesn't have the LV logo on there. The rest of the 3 do. The front and back, we usually have it. Now these are pretty tricky to salvage. Okay. These are basically called Jiffy Rivets. They're 2-part rivets like this. You got the male and female. Okay, it goes within inside each other like that, and it gets hammered down. Now, the male part goes inside the female and expands like a mushroom, and it's very difficult to remove it and to reuse it again. Because sometimes when you're trying to remove it, it will break and you can't use it anymore. So, I've known to salvage some in the past. Let's see if we can do it to show you guys how we do that. Let's see if it'll work. Sometimes they pop off and sometimes they're stubborn. Okay. The idea is not to damage it so we can reuse it. It's easy just to cut it and just remove it, but that defeats the purpose of trying to salvage it. Just trying to reuse the same. There we go. I can salvage that. It's still not too bad. The other piece. Let's take a look. Which still is pretty butchered up, but it's not bad. I can salvage them. So we can reuse these. Now, the one that has been replaced with a plain one, what I'll do is I'll try to salvage one side of the other ones. Even though we have a plain one in the back, the front one should match all 4 of them. We hope. All right, let's continue. Let me show you guys another cool feature. Usually what the manufacturer does, this is basically the start and finish of stitching it. And they'll take this, they'll wrap it around the rivet like that and tuck it underneath and put this leather strap down and rivet it together. That's kind of cool. This way, this ensures that the stitches don't come loose. Now, what I usually do, I'll take these threads, the yellow being from the top and the brownish being from the bottom. I'll tie these together first and then wrap it around the rivet and glue it in there and then put the tab down. Now, this has a date code on here. I can't really make it out. It looks like 962, I think. I can't really make it out. I'm sure I could date code it and look for it to see what year it's from. Looks like 982. X. There's 2 letters above it. Is it a VI? I can't tell, man. But it does look like it's 892. All right, some of you guys are geniuses with codes with Louis Vuittons. Let me know what you think. All right, let's continue. Now, end of these straps right here, the manufacturer doesn't put any reinforcements on the inside there. And eventually with the stress, this gets dried out and then breaks. That's what the repair was on this side here. I mean, it was done a little poorly, but they put another piece of leather in there. So what we're going to do, once we put the new leather pieces on, we're going to put a piece of nylon underneath right here, just on the end. So when this metal handle is stressing the leather, it doesn't allow the leather to stretch and then break over time. That's a little bit longer, a little bit of structural support. Same thing on the handle part right here. We're going to reinforce that underneath with some piece of nylon. All right, let's continue. Well, looky here. There was a reason why these had little leather pieces on the bottom. Looks like it's damaged somehow. You guys see that? I'll check the other one real quick. I knew there was a reason for it. It's just unsightly. Yep, there was a damage there too. Now, how odd that's... It looks like somebody put a patch on the inside on this one. I wonder if we should put the metal feet on there. Now, I know it's not original, but hell, there's nothing about... It's not going to be original anymore after all this work. Anyway, so I can hear some people say, "Oh man, you ruined that bag. It's not original no more. It's not an original Louis Vuitton." Please. To each his own, guys. It's damaged there too. What the heck? I wonder if somebody tried to put some feet on here and then damage those areas, because it's awfully interesting how it's on all 4 sides, almost similar areas. Oh, interesting. Yeah, this one's got a little damage too. All right, well, we'll figure something out. At least they had the decency enough to put the same color material on the inside. Not that it matters, but it's a little sloppy job. Interesting. Okay, let's continue. So, bunch of areas that are dirty. White marks, scuff marks, all sorts of things on the surface here. Now, first we're going to try some turpentine. Turpentine's not that hard. It's not that harsh. Now the white marks, the guide marks that we put on top there, well, of course we got to clean them up. So we put them underneath right here. See if you can see that right there. Okay. Now this is going to clean the surface a little bit. It's not going to do everything, but it'll clean majority of the glue left over underneath the straps. Some of those scuff marks will come off. Not all of them. So the areas that we need to focus on more, we're going to see maybe we can do a little bit of a Q-tip and some acetone. Not too much because you don't want to remove the pattern on the bag, because acetone's pretty harsh. And we'll go get some leather conditioners, and not that this is leather, but that'll kind of soften the surface a little bit. I'm sure other people have different ideas on how to clean these and bring these back. Important thing is the end result is going to look good. So that took care of a little bit of the marks. Still got some left over. We'll see if we can touch them up some more. All right, let's continue. All right, so we've got a little dilemma here. You remember the 4 pieces on the bottom, right? Well, it turns out they're not very symmetrical to each other, unfortunately. They're kind of all over the place. I thought about putting a piece of leather about 2 inches wide, like a bottom foot basically on both sides, right? But the problem is that the damaged areas here are further in from the edge than it is on this side. Now, we can possibly try to find a center, which is right here, and put a piece of leather going across this way, across the straps, the 2 straps. It's going to change the look of the bag, but you know what? It's okay. I think we're kind of limited to what we can do. So what if we just added a piece here, 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 and here? Nothing in the middle. We'll leave that alone. That might work as far as it being centered and balanced on both sides as far as where we can put the pieces of leather. I think that's our only solution. Either that or I get to put back the pieces of, material that I took off there, which is going to look ugly, I think. I don't want to do that. I think we got to figure. I think that one, if we do 4 pieces from the center here like this, I think it would work out. It'll act as basically like a foot, and it'll cover those areas that are damaged. All right, I think that's what we're going to do. Let's continue. So this is basically for the piping around the edges. All we're going to do is we're going to fold these over like this, glue it. I skived the ends right here. Where are you? Let's try it again. I skived the end here because when the beginning and the end come on top of each other, you got to skive both ends so it's not such a hump right where it meets together. So let's put some glue on there. People always ask me what kind of glue I use. I use Masters all-purpose cement. It's good cement. I'm happy with it. It dries pretty quick too. All right, let's continue. Sometimes I'll put like a piece of nylon right in between there to give it that little bit of hump. But this one didn't have any, so I'm going to do the same thing. All right, let's continue. This is the side tab that I'm putting a little crease lines on there. Now, sometimes I do this when it's warm, the tool that is. Sometimes I do when it's cold. When it's cold, you've got to put a lot of pressure on there to get that little line. Just like that. Just a little pattern on the side. I mark my holes there. So this will go right here. A dab of glue. Make sure that little center line, little notch, lines up with the purse. And ready to stitch. So when it gets done, it'll look just like this. Just like that. I've got the piping stitched on here. I'll show you guys on this one when I stitch it. Ooh, excuse me. All right, let's continue. All right, so we've got all the leather cut out. Okay. Straps, handles, bottom pieces, side tabs. Okay. Now let me show you guys something. This is basically the vachetta leather, okay? Now, you see what light does to it. This is the end of the hide that wasn't rolled up all the way, but you see the rest of it? You see how natural that is? So over time, there's just kind of, with light and use, oils from our skin, rain, wet, it will eventually darken up and give it a nice patina like it has now. So we're going to leave it this color. 50-50. I haven't decided yet, but I think if we're replacing all the leather on there, I think it'd be kind of cool to have it lighter color, you know. So yep, that's what we're gonna do. Just made up my mind. All right, let's continue. So this is basically for the piping around the edges. All we're going to do is we're going to fold these over like this, glue it. I skived the ends right here. Where are you? Try it again. I skived the end here because when the beginning and the end come on top of each other, you got to skive both ends so it's not such a hump right where it meets together. So let's put some glue on there. People always ask me what kind of glue I use. I use Masters all-purpose cement. It's good cement. I'm happy with it. It dries pretty quick too. All right, let's continue. Sometimes I'll put like a piece of nylon right in between there to give it that little bit of hump. But this one didn't have any, so I'm going to do the same thing. All right, let's continue. This is the side tab that I'm putting a little crease lines on there. Now sometimes I do this when it's warm, the tool that is. Sometimes I do when it's cold. When it's cold, you've got to put a lot of pressure on there to get that little line. Just like that. Just a little pattern on the side. I mark my holes there. So this will go right here. A dab of glue. Make sure that little center line, little notch, lines up with the purse. And ready to stitch. So when it gets done, it'll look just like this. Just like that. I've got the piping stitched on here. I'll show you guys on this one when I stitch it. Ooh, excuse me. All right, let's continue. These little nips that you're hearing me cutting the leather, those are relief cuts. Basically, I do that because I'm turning the corner. It just gives it a little bit of a release on the leather so it lays flat. to do, I've got to cut this here, skive the edge of this piece, put it on top of that, and then keep on stitching. All right, let's continue. Oh, this is the relief cut. That's what the relief cut does basically. See the corners? They're sitting nice and flat now. Let's continue. All right, so we're working on the handles. We took one apart, made a pattern. Basically, I'm going to pre-punch these holes and hand stitch the handle on, which is going to look like that. So once the handles are done, we can attach the straps to the body of the bag and then start assembling things. We're getting there. Let's see, this is the nylon that I'm going to use to reinforce that inner part right there. There you go, it's getting there. Oh, this is the rope that was inside the original handle. We're going to reuse that. Okay. Once we glue everything back together, we'll punch the holes and then we'll hand stitch it. All right, let's continue. This is what I use on the edges, Fiebing's edge coat. I know some people are going to ask. Let's continue. So, you guys remember when I was telling you about reinforcing basically where the handle posts go? These are basically nylon. So I folded it over a couple of times. Give it some structural support, because that's where all the stress is going to be. And this way it just lasts a little bit longer. The leather doesn't stretch over time because that nylon won't allow it to. A little bit of glue. And she is ready to be stitched down on the bag. One more to go, and then we'll go ahead and stitch the straps back on the bag. All right, let's continue. All right, so we've got the straps and the handles done. Now, made the straps about 1/4 of an inch longer than the actual bag, because what happens is that because it has to be circle the outer piece needs to be a little bigger than the actual bag, or else if it's the same size, then it looks like it'll look like it's choking the bag when you assemble it to that shape. So we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of glue here and stitch this on there, and then go ahead and stitch the corner pieces on, and we're almost done. All right, let's continue. Fell off. Nice. All right, I guess this is a good time to say let's continue. All right, so we've got one side panel stitched. We've got all the handles and the center other stitched. Now you guys remember when we marked the little markings on the sides. Now we've got them marked here also on this side, but the problem is this is going to be facing down, so you're not going to see the marks from this side. So what we're going to do is we're going to pinch the marks and put a little notch right there, like a little piece, cut it out. So what happens is that when you're stitching it from the top here, you'll see those little areas that you just cut. And you just gotta have to line everything up, all the marks to each other. Now what we're gonna do first, we're going to stitch the center right here to the zipper, and then we're going to go around and stitch all the little marks first before we stitch it all the way around. What happens this, if you don't, you can do it without doing it that way, right? But you know, this is a little easier. This way everything is centered. You don't have to fight with it. And sometimes because this is nylon, canvas nylon, it still stretches a little bit. If you tug on a little too much, it will stretch. And you don't want to lose those spots that you created so they'll match together, you know? And it's easy to do that sometimes. This may take a little longer, but you know what? At least you'll know that all the marks will be lining up together. And once it's done, it fits properly. Done with this project. Once we stitch this on, then we get to stitch the cover on, the binding. It covers just basically it's a piece of fabric that you stitch on the edge right here. It basically just covers the edges, the raw edges of the pieces that you just stitched. That's the last thing to do. And it'll be next after we do this. All right, let's continue. So this is basically the binding that we put on the edges, so you don't see this, so you don't see this raw edges for all the materials coming together. It's the original fabric that I took off. It's not in too bad shape. Thought I'd keep it the same. So once this is done, we're basically going to touch up a little bit for the bag, and then we'll be finished. I'll show you guys the finished product. All right, let's continue. All right, for those of you who are asking me about how to contact me, once you're on the main page right here, you can click to About, and all my information is right there. The company name, address, email address, phone number. And if you have anything to ship, there's a shipping form right here in the corner. If you click onto that, basically that'll come up. Computer's a little slow today. Did I click it? There you go. So basically you just have to print this out and ship it with your item. And once we receive it, we'll take a look at it, and we will basically talk about your item and give you some rough estimates and take it from there. So, but please do not send items without communicating with me, emailing me or calling me, because I really need to look at your item before you send it out. You never know. It might be something I don't do. It might be a little too much, you know, to invest in. Who knows? Whatever the issue is. Also, I'll have some links at the end of the video about the products I use. People ask me, what kind of glue do you use? What kind of conditioner you use? So forth and so on. So I'll have everything listed on the description, actually, on the part of the video, so you can check them out. All right, let's continue. All right, welcome back. We are done with another project. That didn't turn out too bad. Now these pieces here are a little bit higher than what I would have liked, but the problem is that the marks on the bottom dictated where I could position them, and I brought them down as low as possible to the bottom without the, the areas not being noticeable that they were damaged. The sliders were gone. I put 2 new sliders on. New tabs, obviously, new piping, new straps on the body of it, new handles, and then general cleaning of the fabric here. Now there's still some spots that kind of refuse to come off, and I didn't want to rub too hard or use acetone where I was going to remove the actual logo of the fabric. Otherwise, it turned out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. I think she'll be happy too. She'll be a little surprised because she got a little bit more than what I promised her that I would do. So I'm hoping that she'll be happy. So, all right. Well, thank you again for joining me. I appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't done so. Give me thumbs up, comment, good, bad, ugly, doesn't matter. I'll take it all. Hopefully, I think the next video is going to be about 3 or 4 pairs of floor chimes that I have to do. So stay tuned. All right. We'll see you again. Take care.